Hey folks, David Stewart here. Don't forget to check out the newest Zool album collection of some of my improvisational music from 2025. You can find it at zoolonline.bandcamp.com or listen to it on your favorite streaming platform. I want to talk about Jack Dorsey and his company cutting. It's called Blocks, which is Cash App and Square. It's cutting 4,000 jobs, is what he said, which is 40% of their workforce. This attracted a lot of attention because it's a tech company cutting a lot of jobs. And of course, the big culprit that everybody wanted to point to, even though Jack Dorsey didn't say this in his post on X, on Twitter, which he also created, he didn't say that it was large language models, but that's what everyone jumped to because it's been years now, and this is what everybody's been anticipating, that we're going to finally have these labor savings. We're going to have these labor savings. We're going to be able to replace lots of people. The AIs are going to be able to get rid of a lot of the white collar jobs. And of course, if you have a white collar job, this is really scary. People are really afraid of that. They don't want their job to be replaced because they want to be valuable and be able to command a salary and have a job. So I want to provide two sides to that. The first one is that I don't know if this is the result of efficiency increases due to large language models. That's the first narrative that people jumped on. That's not necessarily what I think is going on here. Keep in mind, Jack Dorsey, after he sold Twitter, Elon Musk cut like 70% of the workforce. And it was fine. And it was fine because most of the people that worked at the company didn't actually contribute to the product. They weren't adding any value. They weren't doing anything, right? Their position was just bureaucratic bloat. When companies get big, the bureaucracy takes over. You find that work fills time, work fills space. Budgets always need more money, no matter what they're doing. And if you have a big cut, all of a sudden it reveals that, that 80-20 rule, 80% of the productivity comes from 20% of the workers, that Pareto principle, that you're going to find those 20%, and all of a sudden, making the cuts is not a big deal. So this could have to do with just a general oversupply of labor in the company, and they're going to take an opportunity to reduce the size of it. When you reduce the size of it, you're going to save money. Their stock price went up, so it's going to have some benefits to the company being able to command a good stock price and, get more funding to do the next round of expansion. And you find that this happens with a lot of companies is rather than growth being like a steady line up, I guess from your perspective, it'd be like this, right? No. Yeah. All right. Anyway, rather than being a steady line up, you go through these phases where there's an expansion and then kind of a plateau. And in order to do the next expansion, you really have to clear out, you have to focus, get rid of the stuff that's not working, clear out the bad assets that are internal to it, the resources that you don't need. And then that allows you to do the next round of expansion to do something new. So I don't know if this is the result of large language models. It could be partly, right? There could be some labor savings. I know that this is what people have been wanting and anticipating for about 4 or 5 years now, that AI would be providing all of these labor savings. Now, I want to also say that labor savings are not necessarily a bad thing, okay? Labor savings are almost always a good thing if we're looking at the system as a whole. And this is because when you save labor in one area, it doesn't magically make everybody poorer. Actually, the opposite is because you save labor in one small area, that makes that thing that was there. Maybe you're automating more of a car assembly line. That makes the car cheaper, or potentially the savings for labor can be used to make the car better for the same price. So you get either a better product or you get a product that's cheaper. That means more people can afford it. More people are getting more benefits from it. People have to make less money to afford it. People who couldn't afford it before can now buy it. So when you're saving labor, you're reducing the cost of things, which usually allows more people to have access to that thing. Now, if you're the person having your labor saved, that's not usually good. That's at least temporarily going to be a significant setback to your economic power. Is that maybe you're a computer programmer and you're finding that you need half as many computer programmers because you can use AI to generate a large amount of the code. So you just don't need as many computer programmers. Well, it sucks to lose your job, to be laid off from your job because you're redundant or because you're part of that labor savings. However, that doesn't mean that you're not going to have a job forever. And in fact, when you save labor in one area, that means that there's more opportunity, economic opportunity overall. So besides products, goods, and services getting cheaper, you also have opportunities for other kinds of economic expansion. And if we're thinking just of like computer programmers, let's say half the computer programmers there get cut, those are computer programmers that are available to do something that couldn't be done before, and if AI can generate a lot of extra code, that means that more software projects that weren't feasible before could be feasible because of the labor savings. In other words, you couldn't really design this specialized app because there wasn't enough consumer demand for it, or you'd have to charge too much for it. Just the economics of it don't work out. But if you make it cheaper with AI, so you need fewer programmers, and those few programmers can generate the code more quickly, that all of a sudden there's more kinds of software that can be developed through that labor savings. And those engineers that may have been out of work in company A all of a sudden find that they can work independently or work in company B, creating a product that really couldn't exist without that total labor savings to begin with. There's all kinds of products that we actually can't produce a lot of projects without automation, without robotics. A lot of our microchips and things like that have to be produced with mechanical assistance. We can't hand wire computers. So think about like the person who hand wired computers, which I think my grandfather had that job in the 1960s, was hand wiring computers when he worked for Texas Instruments. So that guy doesn't have the job because you have a machine that stamps out microchips, but those microchips allow the computer to be like one tiny fraction of the price, which means that if the guy who lost his job wiring the computers like worked at McDonald's, all of a sudden he could afford a computer where when he built them, he couldn't afford them. There could be such a huge cost savings when you automate. And he probably isn't going to be doing that, but rather going to end up doing something else that he finds productive and useful and that sort of stuff. So when we're looking at the system as a whole, labor savings is really not a bad thing. In fact, it's a good thing almost always, but it's painful for the people who are having their labor saved. And I don't want to discount that or say that that's not bad. Now, my counter to all of that, playing the devil's advocate with myself, I guess, is that the tendency of like corporate bean counters is not to make things better with new technology. It is to find new technology and use it to reduce costs and make the thing the same but cheaper. Hopefully the same. But if it's a little bit worse, but it's a lot cheaper, then that's okay too. Basically, to change that ratio of price to quality and make it more advantageous. That's what bean counters want to do. So, is AI art going to make better art? No. It can make cheaper art or more of it, and the bean counter finds that attractive because they don't need the art to be better. If they could make the product with the art cheaper, but maybe only a little worse than that, a lot cheaper and a little worse, they'll usually take that trade-off. So what corporate America tends to do is not use the special thing to do more things, but rather to save labor. It's the outsiders that tend to take new technology and do new and exciting things with it. So maybe we'll see a little bit of a software boom. That is possible too. If large language models are as good at generating code as a lot of programmers seem to think, then that opens up a whole lot of opportunities for new projects that maybe the economics for just didn't work out before. So that's what I wanted to say about that, is that chances are this is probably not large language models. Some people have said, activist investors are going to demand that companies start cutting more of their staff, and that could happen. But I don't think that that's any different from normal. I see these kind of boom and bust cycles in the tech industry in particular happen all the time, especially in the games industry, where you have a big expansion, they hire a bunch of staff, they come out with a game, then they cut down a bunch of the staff. And then they do it again later. So you don't want to be stuck in that place where you're getting hired and fired all the time. And that sucks. And I'm really sorry if you're one of those people that get stuck in that. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's large language models that are doing it in this case. So anyway, I would love to know your thoughts. Leave them down below, down in the comment section, and I will read them. Don't forget to check out the new album, which is made up of some of my music that I recorded last year live. So these are live recordings, which is very fun. And I will check you all next time. Have a great day.